I'm keen to share my experience of long COVID with people out there, because I am finding that the more people I talk to, the less people know about it. And when I start sharing them my experience of what I'm going through, they're often really shocked by it. And they're like, oh, I had no idea that people were dealing with that there was even, something like a Facebook group that's got, I don't know, probably about 2,000 people now and adding just about every day. And I had a fellow vacuum cleaner man come in, fix my internal vac. And I was telling him about it, and he said, oh, I've got a story to tell my golfing buddies. I've never heard of anything like this before. So yeah, I think that awareness, and even, my friends that are doctors, they haven't, some of them don't even have patients, and they are still don't really know what's happening. And my friends, if I haven't seen them for a while, they are often really shocked by what's happened to me. And I find that some of the things that have been on television, like the news and things like that, is just really peripheral stuff, really, really shallow, and is of no help to anyone. I first had COVID in February this year, 2022, and was really, really sick for quite a few months. But probably in May, I was given the diagnosis of long COVID. I had, so when I first got COVID, it was quite mild. I just had a bit of a sore throat, and I was really tired. And then I just basically, after about, 3 or 4 days, I just went to bed, and I didn't basically get up for about 7 days, just couldn't do anything. And then I got secondary infections, and of both nose, sinusitis, and then I got a chest infection. And I just, couldn't stand up for more than 5 minutes. I just had to have my feet up the whole time, lying down. I was lightheaded, had a buzzing feeling just at all times running through my veins, had really achy legs, particularly in my thighs. Sometimes would lead me to tears. It was so painful. I'd just be lying there in agony. Then later on, I developed sort of a tremor. So my hand kind of would do this, and that just grew and grew until one day I just was lying, having a rest, or about to go to sleep, and I just started, this was happening, and then the other side, and then it would be like full on. And my whole body just was like this epileptic type muscle spasms. Sometimes my face will go. That's really strange. And it was kind of comical as well as worrying. My husband would rub whatever was twitching and try and calm it. And, we'd be laughing while this is happening, and then I'd be crying. And it just got worse and worse and worse until basically every time I went to have a rest, my body had to have this expression of relaxing. And it was almost a relief, like I could feel the tension building up in my veins. So it would be like this buzz feeling in my system, and I could feel the tension mounting, and I just have to go and lie down. And then it was like, it would happen, and I'd be really tired afterwards, but it was a relief at the same time. And this could happen, 3 or 4 times a day, could last sometimes for half an hour. And then that was that. That was improved by my diet, but I had stomach issues. Often was nauseous, diarrhea comes and goes. I have a constant sore throat, just never leaves me. But sometimes it's the intensity that changes. So sometimes it's like really, really sore, and other times it's not so sore. My legs, I'm left with this dull ache, which I guess I've gotten used to. And if I think about it, I go, oh yeah, they're still sore. And then I have light and noise sensitivity, that will lead to one of these fits as well. So if noise starts to get too much for me, I now have a little bag with me with all sorts of things. But so light and noise sensitivities, and they can overload my system and send me to have a fit. It makes me really emotional when I can feel my system going into overload. I start to feel very vulnerable, and it, just I can't explain why, but it makes me feel all emotional, and that's also another cue that I just need to get out of wherever I am. The chronic fatigue has never left me. I wake up every morning and I'm not refreshed. I will sleep. I need to sleep at least 8 hours a night. If I don't, then I'm not good the next day. The sleeping, I have difficulty going to sleep. My brain won't switch off. So I have brain fog, which manifests and I can't remember stuff. I get lost mid-sentence. I can't remember words to describe something. I have become very good at charades or explaining what it is that I'm trying to say. I can't do screen time for very long. I have to be really careful with that because I get a headache across here. That is also something that's been there the whole time, and that again comes and goes depending on where I'm at, I guess, with my system. One of the really, what I find interesting things is I lost my taste when I had COVID, and I didn't actually realise because I was so sick and wasn't that interested in food. But, I noticed it when I got it back, and then it left again, and then it came back. I did that for quite a while. I believe I have my taste back now, but it's really modified. There's certain foods that I used to love I don't want anymore. I've become, I used to be a huge tea drinker. I just loved tea. Now I don't like it at all. I'll drink coffee over anything. I basically drink coffee and water now, and I switched to decaf after lunch. And chicken, used to love chicken, do not like chicken anymore. So that for me it's definitely since COVID, and that's really fascinates me how that's happened. Hot and cold, my thermostat went, so I couldn't gauge, I'd get cold and for no reason, or really, really hot, and I'd go from one extreme to the other, and I'd be freezing and I'd be huddled and have clothes on me and blankets, and then I'd be cold to the bone, but there was no reason for it. And then I'd just be so hot, it was ridiculous. And that often used to get me just at any time. In fact, in May, I would turn the fire on and think, it must be, having a cold snap, and didn't actually click that I was the only one that was actually cold and that nobody else was. So that was a bit strange. So after COVID, I'm now negative, but I have this chest infection, and I couldn't breathe. And I am a mild asthmatic, so I understand what asthma is, but this wasn't like anything I've ever experienced before. And I ended up in hospital with that. That was really terrifying. Just couldn't breathe. I was taking my inhaler and antihistamines, and nothing worked. And I went to sleep that night thinking I was going to die. I didn't. But I'm left now, like my breathing is absolutely fine most of the time. I get quite breathless going upstairs. Not all the time, but sometimes, often. And then I have this thing that comes and goes. I've got it at the moment, actually. It's in my chest. It's like it's tight, and it's got this tickle, but it hurts. So it's this weird thing, and I can't breathe deeply. It actually hurts to try and have deep breaths. So I have to breathe shallowly, and I have little coughs, and so that's definitely since COVID. I have heart palpitations, which I did have before COVID. I had a bit of that, but this is different. My heart rate will just increase for no reason. Like I could be sitting here now, and then suddenly I'll just have elevated heart rate, and then if I stood up to move around the room, it would go up again. So my resting heart rate could be around 95, 96. Then standing up could go up to 120, and I've taken only a few steps. And then I have this is embarrassing, this diarrhea that comes and goes, and there's just no rhyme or reason for it, and can last for weeks or days. I never know. It just happens, and then it's gone again. The nausea, that comes and goes. The dizziness I get. Yeah, I think I've covered everything. I told you it was a long list. Oh, did I say the aches and pains? Have joints. My joints ache and like arthritic. No, my doctor was initially really good. She was very sympathetic, and I saw her quite often. But one of the other things I had for a while was anxiety, and it would come about, like if I drove, or like situations where there was anything problem solving, stuff like that, and I would get this anxiety. Sometimes my body would just click into it, like the heart rate goes up. The thing about this anxiety is I understood exactly what was going on, but I couldn't stop it, nothing. And I know I've felt anxious before in my life. I had a couple of really bad times with the anxiety where my brain would just go to worst case scenario. And any little things that I had, before, where I was feeling worried about something, I'd just go and do something else, go for a walk or something. These things just elevated it and put more stress on my system, and just the anxiety just went through the roof, and like I've never ever experienced before. And in fact, one night I was lying on the floor, hugging myself, rocking backwards and forwards, going, I just want this to stop. I just need this to stop. And I understand mental illness a lot better than I did, and have a lot more compassion for people that live with that on a daily basis, because it was up there with one of the worst things I've experienced and had no control over it, which I guess is one of the things with this long COVID, these symptoms. There is no controlling them. They control you. They rule you, what you do, where you go, how you function. And thankfully, that's better. Anyway, went to my doctor and was having one of these tremors, started trembling. And she prescribed me some antidepressants, and I just didn't feel right about taking them. They didn't really fit, because I didn't feel like it was related to that. It felt like it was in my brain, or it was somewhere else. I know that mental illness is in the brain, but it just didn't feel like that. It felt like something different. I asked her about vitamin B injections or infusions, because a lot of people on the Facebook group had talked about these as being successful, and she said, oh no, I think they're rubbish. They work for some people and they don't. I don't think we need to go there. And when I was really sick, she was pretty good. Then she went away, and I went and saw one of the other practitioners at the centre, and I booked myself for a half-hour appointment because I had a crash. It was about was it February, March, April, May, June? It was 4 months in, and I just had this major crash where I was back to square one, where I was in bed on the couch. I couldn't cook for myself. Bathing was difficult. Everything was difficult. So I managed to get to see her, and I took a video of me having one of these fits. And I was sitting in the chair, really struggling to get my system under control, because I'd been left in the waiting room, and the lights had got to me and the noise had got to me, and I could feel my system going into overload, and I was really afraid I was going to have one of these fits there in the room. And as I'm sitting there struggling, she criticised me and said, I feel like there's a bit of hostility here. And I just burst into tears and said, oh my gosh, I'm just really struggling to not have a fit here in this place, and I apologise if I'm coming across like that. I really need help. I'm a mess. I don't know what to do. And it actually makes me feel emotional as I talk about it, and really sad, because I left there, went and had blood work done, and never heard from her. It took me 7 weeks to be well enough to make a phone call. I had to make 2 phone calls, talk to her through the nurse, and she did apologise and said, oh yeah, I was supposed to do this and that, and I never did, and I'm sorry, I'll get onto it. And she never did. So then my doctor got back from holiday, and I tried to contact her made lots of lifestyle changes to try and put my body in the best place possible to heal. And I wanted to get some blood work done to compare with what it was like 4 months earlier, and to see what I was low in, and see if I needed any supplements. And she just never got back to me. So I've since changed doctors, and he seems good. He at least wants to help me and is enthusiastic about helping me. It's November, nearly December, and so that's 10 months since I was ill, and I basically have had no help medically. I've been, really unseen and left adrift to try and work it out for myself. My advice to somebody, if they are going through something similar where their doctor is not being responsive to, their long COVID issues, is, you really need to make a change. I know it's hard, particularly if you've been with your doctor for a long time like I had. Also, it's hard to know where to go. That was huge. I rang and talked to different people to seek advice on where I should go and who I should go to. And then there's actually a shortage of doctors, and getting in to a new practice can be difficult as well. But even if you need to get an advocate or somebody to go and help you, I would say, one thing I've learned is, I have to ask for help. I can't do this on my own. I have a lot of disabilities now. I can't remember things, and I need a lot of help. So, yeah, if that's you, then definitely get someone to help you and move on, because there is someone out there that will look after you and look after you well. And even if it's just having you know that you are cared for, I think that's a huge part, to know that you are cared for and not just out there trying to work it out for yourself. Learn how to manage these symptoms and recognise the cues. So when my system is struggling and going, starting to buzz, starting to get a headache, my sore throat gets worse, things like that, I have to stop. So I now carry around with me what I refer to as my nappy bag, because it's got all my little devices and things that will help any given situation, because I never know when it might come on, because it can happen like that. Like noise might become too much in a place. So I have noise cancelling headphones, but I also have earplugs. So sometimes just putting earplugs in solves that problem. I have sunglasses that are lighter, so I can wear them inside, because sometimes just even the light inside affects me adversely and I just need to take relief from it. I've had to learn how to pace, and that usually involves me listening to podcasts and books. So I've become a listener, and sometimes I fall asleep and sometimes I don't when I do this. Often half an hour is enough just to switch off. I have an eye mask that I use also. Sometimes even when I lie down and close my eyes, the light is too much, so I just need a little bit extra. Sometimes if I'm in the car, it gets too much for me and I have to put the eye mask on and the headphones on and just zone out, listen to something, or just actually get rid of the noise. I have a face mask in there as well, just in case I need that. And so I can only go on a computer for about half an hour. I can't work, but I still do some admin work for my husband and do his accounts. What used to take me a few hours now takes me a week, because I find probably an hour and a half to 2 hours of that a day is enough, and I have to do it in 40-minute increments, with 40 minutes on, half an hour off, 40 minutes on, half an hour off. So, and then I've still got to eat and stuff in between, so you can imagine it actually takes quite a while to get through that. And I have to make decisions about what I'm going to do and not do. I have to plan very carefully for things. If we go away, I've had a couple of trips to Australia. I need a wheelchair to get me from one place to the next, just so that my system doesn't go into overload and I don't get too tired, save my energy for the flight. The noise cancelling headphones are really, really helpful with that. They've been brilliant, because there's actually quite a lot of white noise on an aeroplane that as a normal person you don't think about, but when you have a heighten to that, it can be quite disturbing. So a wheelchair now is, and we had a little trip to Gisborne last weekend or a couple of weeks ago, And I thought, it's just provincial, I don't need a wheelchair. But it was still a bit of a walk to the plane, but not too bad. I got off the plane and the jerks started to happen, and when we got to the place where we're staying, I had to go straight to the room and have one of my little fits, get it out of my system. So, and I've had one of those actually getting on a plane as well. That was horrendous. Pretty devastating as well. So even though planning is key, I'll start packing a couple of days beforehand, have to work out what I'm going to wear when I'm away. Everything has to be detailed. I have to take my own food, or if we're going out anywhere, I need to see the menu, see if I can eat it, because my diet is quite strict these days. So yeah, it's a lot of planning has to go into where I go and what I do, because I'm just, and I feel that as my recovery, as I get better, I get how much pressure my brain is under, and it's almost like my brain is getting worse, but I don't think it is. I think I'm just more aware of what is happening around me and what I need to do to get to where I'm going. I had to make some changes to my diet because I really felt that something was going on with my gut. I was, putting on weight, and I felt like I was a water bottle sloshing around. I could just feel the water retention. And I just thought, this is not right. So the Long COVID Facebook page has a #gut, which has a segment on it anyway. It was basically the ketogenic diet. And I did that really, really strictly for 3 months. And my spasms all but disappeared. I wasn't having them every time I lay down. When I was resting, I forgot about them. It's like, wow, this is amazing. They are now there as a system overload. So I have, I've done quite a bit of research into the diet and into what is happening in the gut, and it's all about microbiomes and really healing them, and it can take years. And it would seem the research I've done now is a whole food diet. Again, the no sugar. I was gluten-free before I had COVID. It's no gluten as well, and plant-based, significantly plant-based. So a lot less meat. Not eating dairy at the moment because my cholesterol has gone up. I've never had high cholesterol. It's not anything that they worry about, but I've never had high cholesterol ever. But I can't exercise. For probably 8 months, we ate pre-cooked meals because I wasn't capable of cooking. I could turn the oven on and stick a meal in there. Would take half an hour to cook. When I did start the ketogenic diet, I had to have a friend of mine help me. I just couldn't understand. My brain fog was so bad. I was like, I just don't understand what I'm supposed to do here. It doesn't make any sense to me. So she was great. I also intermittent fast. So I try to do a 16-hour gap between my meals from dinner to breakfast or lunch, depending on what time I eat. These things have definitely made a difference. And I have a diary, and I write in it what my symptoms are every day and what's happening. And I think for a month I just forgot and wasn't writing down my symptoms, and things definitely got better. And I don't know, I don't know what happened, but my system just went, okay, now something else, so something else has happened and changed. And so I'm doing a lot of listening and reading when I can into the gut and what I can do to help my gut, because they're talking about, there's lots of research that says the gut is the second brain. So if I feel like if I can get my gut, I guess my bowels, working a lot better for me, then surely it's got to help my brain. Having long COVID has severely impacted my whole life. As I can't work, and so I had a business with Tracy Thorpe, who is a good friend of mine. She also has she's got POTS, and we were doing a photo shoot together where we contracted COVID at the same time, and we've just never recovered. So I don't get to see her as often. My family, my immediate family, my daughters and my husband have been amazing. I think that it has been quite hard on them, and friends and social things, I just have to pick and choose what I can go to. I think that for a long time, the wider family didn't get what was going on. You're sick, you'll get better. Why aren't you better yet? What's happening? And I just never got better. In fact, then I'd crash and it was worse. And I think it's taken them a long time to realise that I'm changed, that I'm not the person I used to be. My friends, some have fallen away. Some older ones that I wasn't in contact with all the time have stepped up and become more important. There's the ones that have been invaluable, that will come and take me out for coffee just to get me out of the house. Never know what's going to make you feel sad, do you? I used to do boot camp. I used to play golf. I was really active. Have got quite a big friendship group, and I just don't see them as often as I used to because I'm not exercising with them. I'm, not playing golf. So I guess that makes me feel sad that, I guess the friends and the family that have come around me are gifts from heaven and are absolute treasures to me. And the ones that haven't, I even get that because sometimes you just don't know what to do, and that's okay. People have busy lives and are doing their own thing. They've got their own families, and so that's fine too. But I really, really appreciate those that have been there for me through this, that have, when I couldn't go out and get meals, it would go and get them for me, do my shopping, come in, visit and sit outside while I was inside at the door. Lots of bring me treats. just love me, and they have made me feel loved, and that has been really incredible. So grateful, some of the, I find I'm attracted to wellness podcasts, and, and the lifestyle scenarios, and I've started doing things that I've never done before, like meditating, which I never understood that, never understood what it was, and that's been quite cool. Trying to see my illness as not a bad thing, trying to turn it around and go, well, maybe this is an upgrade. And I certainly have a lot more compassion for people that have chronic illnesses now. I feel like I've experienced so many, with my symptoms, so many different scenarios that I can just go, I get that, I get what it might be like for someone having chemotherapy and being so unwell that they're vomiting and can't shower themselves. I've got a sister-in-law who has really bad arthritis, and with the joint aches and pains, and I think I had 3 days where I couldn't move my fingers. My fingers were so sore that I couldn't do anything with them. So it's given me an insight into a lot of stuff, and trying to look at it from a positive perspective. I think my faith has been incredible. I feel like I definitely feel like God is here with me and in it with me, that I'm not alone, that He is helping me through this. It's just a journey that I have to walk down. And that doesn't mean that it's not hard at times, because it is hard at times. It just means that hopefully I can have a positive attitude and be grateful for the things that I do have, rather than going and looking at the things that I don't have. The hardest part of this journey with long COVID has been the loss of self. It's been, loss of independence, having no control over my body and my brain anymore. That I used to be able to jump in the car and go where I wanted and do what I wanted when I wanted. And I can't do that anymore. I can only drive short distances when I'm the driver. I can't sit in the back seat anymore because I get nauseous in the back seat and start to feel claustrophobic. I can't map a place anymore when we are driving. I even went and did this movement class where we had to do child's pose, where your head's down. And when I stood up, I was like, I'm going to throw up, and had to stop, and haven't been back actually. I can't put my head down for very long because it makes me nauseous and then dizzy. So coming to terms and accepting this illness has been the hardest thing, and it's been devastating. At times I have absolutely been in a puddle on the floor, crying loudly, wailing almost, what is happening? What is this? And will I ever be myself again? And I think that's probably been the most difficult part of this long COVID. Apart from, the doctor no help side of things, the emotional side of things, and the change in who I am compared to who I was, and that I might be like this for a long time. Gosh, I might be like this forever. I don't know. I have improved. I am a lot better than what I was, but I am far from recovered. I'm just recovering, and I don't know what it looks like, and nobody knows what it looks like, and nobody knows when it's going to end, and that's been tough. And sometimes it still makes me sad. You know, when, like that weekend I told you about, where in Gisborne, where my system went into overwhelm, it literally took me a week to get over that, and that starts to get a little bit depressing, that I just don't have the energy to even catch up with friends, to talk with them. It takes everything just to make dinner, and I'd rather do that. I'd rather be able to have the energy to make my dinner, to know that I'm getting the good nutrients that I want. That's important to me. And not being able to exercise regularly, that, I've been a regular exerciser, and that's, just, I miss myself. Getting 8 hours sleep a night is really, really important for me, because if I don't get that, I can crash, or I just am very lethargic the next day and can't do much. I deal with this by I have my noise cancelling headphones, or I put my earpods in and listen to books or podcasts before I go to sleep. I have several different ones that I listen to. I find the English accent really relaxing. I listen to a lot of Ella Delicious. I often fall asleep to that, and I wake up a couple of hours later and it's happening. I take melatonin. That's one thing that the doctor did do for me, and I take that every night. For a while I was taking CBD oil that helped the anxiety. I think it helped the aches a little bit, and it certainly helped with the sleep. I've stopped taking that. I don't think I need it anymore. If my system has gone into sort of a bit of a crash, I add Phenergan into that, which is an antihistamine with a drowsy effect. And I'll take that at sort of 7 o'clock in the evening. And then I take the melatonin half an hour before I go to bed, or as I go to bed. Then I listen to whatever on my headphones, and that relaxes me to sleep. But I only take the Phenergan if it's been a crash time, because I know I have to get the sleep, and I cannot risk not getting it, like waking up at 4 a.m, which can happen, like if I'm really tired and I crash at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, then I could easily wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. So this just makes sure that I get the 8 hours, sometimes 9. But generally, it's the melatonin. Also take progesterone, because I'm of that age, so that helps too with the relaxing. And then definitely listening to either a book or a podcast as I'm going to sleep, and that just, I can feel myself relaxing. And I don't quite understand what happens with the listening side of things and why it relaxes my brain and my body, but it does. Yeah. Any advice that I would give to anybody that has long COVID or thinks they've got long COVID is to really take it easy on yourself, to not try and do too much. Don't think you're going to track better, because you don't. When you do think, I'm feeling better today, and you go to do your normal things, that you would in a normal day, because this happened to me, like going to do the washing, cooking dinner, just those normal, boring, everyday things. It can bring on a crash. And if it's early on, you just need to rest and get a good support network around you. Don't try and do it on your own. Ask for help. I think realising that you need help and asking for it was really a good thing. And don't be bothered by the naysayers. Actually, I've experienced a little bit of helpful advice, and it's really not helpful at all. When you're as sick as you can be with long COVID, you're just putting one foot in front of the other. You're just doing your best, and you take shortcuts because you have to. When I'm in a wheelchair, because I look fine and people are used to me being fine, I have had a couple of jibes about being in the wheelchair. I'm like, why are you in a wheelchair? What do you need a wheelchair for? Just don't let that sort of stuff bother you. It did bother me a little bit to start with. It actually really upset me because, someone making a joke about the fact that you can't do your housework or cook your dinner, that, that's nothing to complain about. Not that you're complaining, it's just I actually can't do it. And oh my gosh, I'd give anything to be able to do that, to have the energy to pick up a vacuum cleaner or to chop some carrots or read a recipe. It's don't let the people that think it's funny or make jokes about your situation get you down. They don't mean to. Again, I think that people don't know how to react to this situation. I know I've said dumb comments to people before who've had tragedies or things have gone wrong, and I've said dumb stuff. So, I guess have a heart of forgiveness, let things go, and try and trust that it's all going to be okay in the end.